Today I'm going to be doing a brew in a bag, which I will then put into my pinter to ferment. What is a brew in a bag? It's a form of all grain brewing where you're doing the mash and the boil in the same vessel. Now this is going to be my first brew in a bag, so this isn't a instructional video. It's not instructional, it's just a how did I do what I'm doing. My equipment for doing this brew in a bag is I've got a pot. This holds about 8.5 litres. Ideally, you should be looking for something that's 10, but this will do for me. So I've got my pot. Most importantly, I have my grains. Now, I've bought a pack from Brewstore that comes with the different grains, the hops I need, and the yeast. You can buy these all separately yourself. It's just, for a first time, this was easy. It's like a recipe in a bag for me to make, with instructions to follow as well. So this was about just under £10, and it will create 4.5 litres, which is perfect for going in a pinter, which is a 5 litre vessel. Alongside that, I have a funnel with a filter at the bottom, which is what I'm going to use to decant it into the pinter. I also have a big old measuring jug just to get the water measurements that I need. I've got sanitizer, and you're going to need this to sanitize different pieces of equipment that you're using, but I'm also going to have to use this to sanitize the pinter, the brewing dock, and other items that I shall be using, such as the funnel. I've got a nice metal spoon, which I'm going to be using with the grains that I'm putting into the water. I've got a hop sock. This is one I'm going to put the hops inside and then use that to boil inside so that it's not actually just floating in the water. It's contained within here and easy for me to pull out so I don't have bits floating around after. And obviously I've also got my weighing scale, measuring cylinder, thermometer and hydrometer, which will help me along the way. The recipe today is a pale ale, so it's a UK style pale ale. What I have to do is I've put 5 litres of water in, and I need to bring this up to what they call the strike temperature, which is going to be for this 76 degrees. The strike temperature means I'm bringing the water up to 76, and then that's when I'm going to take it off the boil, not the boil, but the heat increase, and I'm going to put the malts that I've got in. The idea is that the malts are supposed to be about 67, so you deliberately get it higher, because as soon as you add the malts, it's going to decrease that temperature in the water. So 76 is when I chop the malts in, and then I've got to keep it at 67. So we'll leave this for a while it gets up to temperature. I haven't got my digital thermometer yet, still waiting for it to be delivered, so I'm going old school, but I have reached my temperature. I'm at 76 degrees C, which is about 169 Fahrenheit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my muslin cloth inside. Some people have a bag. Unfortunately, I've just bought a 90 square centimetre cloth, and I'm going to line this inside the pan. The grains are going to go inside this. And to keep it together, I'm going to be pushing it through on the sides. I'm now at the strike temperature. I've got my cloth in and I have my malts. There's 1.1 kilos roughly of malt here. It's a different mixture of malts, and I'm going to pour this in to my bag. I've turned the temperature down to a lower level so it's not increasing the temperature rise. I'm just going to pour this into the water, and I'm going to stir it in a moment with my spoon. So that's the first bit. There we go. So I've got my grains in here now. The idea is to make sure that I've not got dough balls at all forming. So here we go. That's a bit of a dough ball. And the idea is just mush it up against the side. We want all the grains to be separated. What we're looking at now is, this is called the mash. We're steeping these grains in this warm temperature, which I'm going to take a measure of in a moment. And we're getting all those sugars out, which we're going to be using to help with our brew. So this is your malt extracts in a sense. This is how they're made. They extract all the goodness from the malts that we're looking to do here. The temperature is now dropping down, so I've just took a measure of it. It's come to about 72, down from that original 76. It is going to drop more to get down to that mashing temperature that I'm looking at, which is 67. The idea now is to leave these to steep for 60 minutes, an hour's time. I'm going to come back. I'm going to stir occasionally in between, but I'll come back in an hour, where we're going to then do the next part, which is sparging. So I'll explain what that is on the next part. This is smelling absolutely amazing. The smell you get when you do your malt extracts is great, but this is that smell when you walk into a brewery that is just doing its mashing of the grains. Smells so beautiful. So beautiful, in fact, that it's not right to not be having a beer while brewing. So this is obviously my Pinter Weiss beer. So I'm going to have one or two of these while brewing. Well, mashing and then boiling at that stage. Cheers, everyone. It's been an hour. It's been mashing away. I've occasionally stirred to move the grains around. It smells amazing. Had to keep an eye on the temperature. Also, funnily enough, partway through, my delivery arrived with my digital thermometer, which I've got just now, testing the water that I'm going to be using for sparging. So as it's been an hour, it's now time to do, as I said, sparging. I am going to do the sparge slightly different than other people may do it. The idea of sparging is you're taking the grains out in the bag and you're holding it above to get the remaining liquid that it's taken in out, so you're getting as much sugars. Then you would normally place it maybe on a higher rack somewhere, and you'd pour water through, and that's sparging, where you're getting more water to come through and get the remaining sugar that's sticking to the grain to come through. What I'm going to do is actually transfer this to another pot and then add in about 3 litres of hot water, and then I will chuck that back in afterwards. So let's get into this. The difficult part. So here we go, I'm going to pull my grains up. And it's going to be slow because I need to let it just run down. And as I said, I've got another pot on the side here, which is where I'm going to transfer to in a moment. So if you can see, that is my grains coming down. I'm going to try and just tighten my grip on this slightly. And this is our malt extract in the sense that we're going to be using to make our beer. So I'm just letting this naturally run down for a bit. I was actually going to just put a sieve across the top, or colander maybe, to rest it on, because I could get it to do that, but it looks like it's near enough. I'm just going to give it some gentle pats on the side. Alright, I'll leave this holding for a few moments. So it's practically stopped, or nearly stopped at this stage. So what I'm going to do is move to my next step. So I'm going to transfer my grains to this other pan here. I'm going to set it up the exact same way that I had before. So I'm going to make sure that this is over the edge. And I'm going to sparge with some hot water. The water is at, just wait for my dishwasher, 70 Celsius. And this is that boiling water. And I'm just going to pour it through. The idea now is to pull this up slowly, and the water I have remaining will be the rest of the solution that I add into here. So I can leave this to just settle for a bit, just sit in that hot water and steep, and then in a moment I'm going to transfer that across. While this is sparging, I'm going to put together my hop additions that are going to go in at the next stage. So I have my hop sock, which I'm going to weigh out the first hop measure. How this, better clear that. I have 2 hops. They haven't told me what they are, unfortunately, just A and B. According to the recipe, once I put these 2 measures together, so the sparge water, which is the second flush in a sense, and the original mash, I'm going to put this together to reach about 7.5 litres. And then we're going to move on to the boil, where I'm going to boil it for an hour, which will then reduce it down to that 4.5 litres that I need at the end. I need to add hops partway through, so I'm going to be adding, to begin with, 5 grams of A and 5 grams of B straight at the beginning of the boil. Once the boil starts, I'm chucking it in. And then I will count down 60 minutes, and during that I think I add another set at half an hour and another set at 15 minutes left, but I'll just confirm that. But to begin with, let's weigh out our first set of hops. So in go the hop pellets. And we're aiming for 5 grams of each. Not an exact science, but there you go. That will do. And then 5 grams of the next one. Get up to 11. There we go. So 11 grams, close enough. I'm going to, as I say, put this hop sock in afterwards. I would measure out the rest, except I know that I'm just going to be chucking in the remainder of these. If you had bigger portions, you would measure out all of your hops during this stage, but I don't need to do that. I'm making sure that this the wort that's in here, so this is now a wort, what you've got remaining from the sugars and the water from the actual grains. I'm making sure this wort is remaining at a good temperature, so I'm looking at about 70. I'm going to add this in up to, I say, the amount that I need, and then we start the boil. So join me in a few moments for that. Yeah. I've left this for about 10 minutes in my water here, the sparge. I'm just going to lift this out, give it a little pat with my spoon, just to get any remaining residual waters out. And I'm now just going to move this actually. I've got enough, don't need to catch all of that. I'm going to put that in here for the moment. There we go, that's out of the way. I'm going to pour this into the rest. Not all of it, maybe, depends how much I've got in here. I'm only wanting, as I said, to bring this up to a certain level. I've got my thermometer there, which I'll just leave over here for the moment. I'm going to use my funnel, which I've sanitized, and I'm just going to make sure that I catch on this little grill at the bottom any little bits that I don't want getting in. So let's start pouring some of this in now. Change of mind, I'm not going to put the funnel direct into there. I'm going to pour it into here, and then it's easy to pour from the jug. So this is much easier to manage. Funnel on top to try and catch any of the loose grains that may have got in here. And now I'm going to pour this into here. I can actually then see how much I've managed to collect. I can see there is definitely some grains in here that's blocking the rest coming through. Let me just get the spoon just to I said this is probably more than I will need anyways. I might as well get it all pouring through. There we go. So that's just a little filter sieve that I've done there. Put that all together for the moment. And now I've got just about 3.5 litres that I'm going to pour into here. But as I said, I'm not sure if all will go in. Let's see. I know in my head the limit that I want to go up to, which is there. There we go. So that's just over 7.5 litres roughly in here, and this is an 8 litre container. I'm now going to whack the temperature up and get this boiling. After a bit of a wait, obviously, to get up the temperature, it has started boiling, and I'm now going to set a timer on my phone. So the boil is going to be 60 minutes, and I'm going to be adding the hops to begin with, these 10 grams at 60, and then I've got a hop addition at 30 minutes and then one at 5 minutes before the end. Just to quickly also say, I'm an idiot and realised that it says on the packet what was in here. So I had pale malt, caramel malt and wheat malt that was part of the actual malts that I put in, and the hops are Fuggles and Goldings. So in are going to go the first 10 grams, and I'm going to start my timer now as well. And there goes the boil. Cool, there we go, and we've got an hour. Next hop addition in 30 minutes. So I thought I'd just quickly explain, because I don't think I mentioned there, the hops are being added at these particular times during the boil. So this first set of hops is going to be doing the bittering. So this is going to add the bitterness. The one halfway through is going to add a bit of bitter, but also a bit of aroma, and that last 5-minute hop addition is all about aroma and flavour. It's nothing to do with bitterness. Here we go. Let's wait. The boil is ongoing. I can see the level has decreased. About 20 minutes in, I'm going to make use of the time in between now and the boil ending by sanitizing my equipment that I'm going to be using for the next stage. So I've got some sanitizing solution I've put in here, and I'm going to sanitize both my funnel and the jug. And then I'm going to pour this sanitizing solution also into my pinter and the brewing dock. And sanitize just as you would normally by shaking it about, pouring it through the tap and all the rest. Alongside this, in a few moments, after I do the next hop addition in about 10 minutes, I'm then going to rehydrate my yeast, which I've not done on the channel before, but I'll show you what I do for that. Ready for the next hop addition, which is hop B this time, and it's another 5 grams, but it's just going to be the remainder, because I weighed it and they only give me about 10 to 11 of each. So let's put that on the side, add this into the hop sock. I'm going to be rehydrating my yeast. So the yeast being used today is SO4. What I need to do to rehydrate is normally put 5 times the amount milligrams of water in. So 11.5 grams sachet, meaning I'm aiming for about 58 grams, milliliters or whatnot of water. So I've boiled the water so that it's clean. 60, that'll do. I'm going to let that come down to room temperature, and once that's down to room temperature, I'm going to add in the yeast to rehydrate it. The temperature of the water is now down, and I'm going to pitch my yeast to rehydrate them. And now I'm going to leave them 45 minutes to an hour to let them hydrate, and then I'll add them into my wort or beer at that stage. So we have 5 minutes on the clock, and I'm going to do the last hop addition. I'm going to try and get these out into my hand this time and add them in to the boil. Easier than keeping in the pack. And in they go into my hop sock. And there they go for the last 5 minutes of this boil. We've come to the end of the 60-minute boil. The water level has decreased, not as much as I thought it may. I'm going to take my hop sock out first, and I haven't actually thought of putting this anywhere, so I'm just going to put it on the side here like this, just squeeze some of that flavour out. There we go. And the next step for me now is take this off the boil. I'm going to try and cool it as quick as I can in the sink. So it's down to just below 50°C at the moment. I'm waiting for this to drop down to about 22, maybe 24, 22, and then I'm going to decant it into the pinter. It's now cooled down, taking a bit of time because I don't have obviously a pipe to cool it. I'm going to pour it through my filter. I'm not pouring all of it in one go. Pour that for the moment and let it go through. Okay. And I'm actually going to take a measure of the gravity. So this isn't going to come out too well. Put that there because it is sanitized. So I'll take a starting gravity reading to see what we're looking at and whether I need to add any water to it or not. So I'll wait for the foam to die down and I'll find out the reading in a moment. What I've got is 3.5 litres that I'm pouring into my pinter. Well, let's pour the rest in and see how much we've actually got here. Pour in the last litre. So there we go. So I only got 4.5 litres out of that. I'm just going to check to see what the ABV is at now. Give this a spin. So it's come out to about 10.45. Which is perfect for me. That means if it gets down to 10.10, we're looking at 4.6%. If it doesn't reach 10.10, we're looking at maybe, I don't know, if it gets to 10.14, we're looking at 4%, and if it gets below that, we're looking at 5%. So it's between 4 and 5%, which is perfect for this. Now I'm going to introduce my yeast. This is the yeast from earlier, which I rehydrated. I covered with cling film, smells lovely. Just give it a swirl round before introducing this into the mixture so I can get all that yeast in there. There we go. it's not fully up to the line. This was a 4.5 litre brew. What I could do if I wanted to in future is I could add some additional sugars into this, so that then I can add water at the end to increase it up to 5 litres. But I'm happy with this. This is my first attempt. I'm going by the book. 4.5 litres being produced. I'm happy with that. Yeast has been added, and now it's time for me to put the cap on and the dog. I think it goes without saying that this goes against the terms of the warranty for the Pinter. So what I'm doing goes against their warranty, but I'm fine with that. I know what's going to happen. On goes our dock. Push it down and across. Nope, didn't go first time. Just check the lid's fully on. It's been playing up a bit. Across. Over. And I'll leave that to brew, and in my next video I shall be tasting it. See you then.